Welcome back. How are you? It's Louisa Tannermunson from Feel Good Astrology, and this is the weekend show. I can see I've already got 6 people watching. Hello. And there's more people come in. Please do say hello in the chat room. Let me know where you're from and how you are, and also what your interest in astrology is. So this is the show that I do each week where I look at the charts of 3 people and give a brief forecast, an update, a real sort of on the spot feel for that particular chart. And I try to explain it from the perspective of how an astrologer might look at it. So it's almost helping you learn to look at your own chart and start to analyze your own chart. So that's the whole ethos behind it. So we've got a big old full moon tomorrow, full moon in Capricorn. I wanted to pay it a little bit of attention because all 3 of my special guests that I'm looking at the charts of today, they've all got something in the vicinity of the full moon. So they've got a bit of a full moon coding. So that's where I want to start. So I can see I've got a few people arriving now. So Nina is listening in. Got a message from her. Let's see. Yeah. Hey, Nina and Henry watching from the Devon, UK. Hello. How you doing? And I know I've got other people, so please don't be shy. I will also say that if you're commenting in Facebook and I haven't put your comment on screen, it's because for some reason at the moment my Facebook isn't really connecting very well with StreamYard, the facility I'm using. So if you could go and comment actually on the video on YouTube, that would be so much easier. Then I can draw you in and put you into the show. Hello again. So that's great. So I've got Nina and Henry watching me from different screens by the look of it. So that's cool. Anyway, let's have a look at the full moon in Capricorn. So let's just change that view a little bit to make it a little bit bigger. So tomorrow's full moon, you might have already heard my forecast for the month ahead. The full moon tomorrow is actually quite beneficial. Often full moons make us a little bit on the crazy side, and you might already have started feeling that sort of full moon feeling. You know how all of a sudden things start to feel like they're a little bit on top of you and there's not much actual space to breathe. Now this one's actually quite calm. It's in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorns tend to keep their head quite well. And the sign of Capricorn is very much about business, which gives it a really sort of practical leaning, like use the tensions of this full moon to put you in the mood to attempt something, to try again, to work towards something really special. Now this full moon is also supported by Saturn. And Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So this is sort of extra lucky. It feels like, how when you're trying to achieve something, often there's that voice in your head that's kind of putting you off. Well, with Saturn here, in such a great relationship to the moon, it's almost as if you've got a soft voice kind of cheering you on, just saying, oh, you don't want to do it like that, maybe just do it a bit like this. But it's not kind of grating, it's really supporting you. And you've also got Jupiter here in a lovely trine, which is really cheering you on. It's going, yay. So my advice is, if you've got a really big thing that you're wanting to launch or considering doing some big change, then do it step by step, which is very much a Capricorn thing. And know that you've got everything that you need. All of the resources that you need are absolutely inside, deep inside. You've got everything you need. So anyway, let's just welcome a few more people. So we've got good morning, Portugal. That's my husband. Wassan, Devon peeps. He's saying to some other people. We've got April Edwards. Hello, April. Nice to see you. I don't think I've ever met you before. So hello, welcome to the show. My co-producer is saying the mic sounds nice, which is really good, because have you ever had that moment where you've done some of your possibly best work only to find out after that the microphone setting was wrong. Oh my goodness. So I've done a very good recording with really poor sound quality. I'm a bit miffed secretly. I'm trying to get over it. So help to cheer me up, please. We've got Penny Albertella. Hi, she's in the chat room. We've got Cindy B from Washington State. Hello. April, where are you from? Where are you sat right now? I'm trying to get a really good sort of feel for which countries people are in, how far this is reaching. Hi from Ray and Anna. Ray, am I pronouncing your name right? I really do like to know I'm getting people's names right. So is it Ray or is it pronounced differently? Can you let me know? We've got Dana as well. Looking forward to this one. Good to be back. Hello. Very nice to have you back. Oh, April was saying, this is my first live with you. Scorpio rising here. Same here. Very, very, very pleased to have you here. And you're from New Jersey. Is that New Jersey in Oldwick? Oh, sorry, Oldwick, New Jersey, USA. Hope I've got that right. I'm not that familiar. That's brilliant. I love it when we've got new people to get to know. So that's fantastic. Okay, so let's have a look at the first chart then today. Not sure which one's coming up first. Seeing as we've got Nina watching, let's see if we can go to, oh, and we've also got Ray as well, but I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. So I'm going to go to Nina. Nina Jeffries. Now, I have looked at Nina's chart before, a long time ago, and her birthday is the 7th of July, 1976, born in Whitehaven, England. Now, when I looked at, when Nina said, oh, can you have a look at my chart? And I was like, sure. I noticed that the chart was set for midday. Now, I often set it for midday if I don't know the actual time of birth. Now, when Nina got back to me, she said, actually, I think it's 8 a.m. So that does change things. And here's what I want to kind of share really to anyone that's not quite sure about their time of birth. So when you're not quite sure, you can set it for, say, midday. The reason why you might set it for midday is it calculates the midpoint for all of the planets on the day of your birth. So like if you set it for midnight, it would represent the sort of midpoint of the day before's afternoon to the particular day you're born on, to the midday. But if you set it for midday, that should bring up the average point of the moon. Now, the moon moves, I think, 13 degrees in a whole day, approximately, which means if you set it for midday, as I have done in the past with Nina's chart, if when you get the real time, it may well scoot over to the left by maybe 6 degrees or scoot over to the right by 6 degrees, but it would still be in the same vicinity. It's not such a terrible change. Whereas if you set it for like midnight and then you're actually born almost at the end of the day, the moon would be moving a whole 13 degrees, which would really change some of the aspects, because with astrology, we look at what planet is connecting to what other planet. Obviously, it does change the ascendant and these angles. These are all based on the time of somebody's birth and the place of their birth. It's like using the longitude and latitude and the actual moment of your birthing. It's almost like sunrise for you. Now, the funny thing is, now Nina's given me a time which she thinks is accurate. It actually describes her, because the ascendant here that I'm using for her 8 o'clock birth has a Leo ascendant. Now, people with a Leo ascendant, they've got a natural ability to perform. And I happen to know that Nina has been a stand-up poet in the past. They tend to have really good hair, like a big mane of hair, like a lion. They tend to be quite proud. They're able to be quite firm and speak from their heart. They're also quite playful. They're also quite fierce. But there's something really about them that captures other people. So I really think that this ascendant Leo is the right time for Nina. Now, there's another reason why I think that it's the right time. As it's shifted around, like if you change the time of birth, essentially all of these planets, for every hour you're adding, all of these planets just shift around the circle. and they're always shifting around the circle. It's almost like setting a clock, but you know, like those security electricity plugs, I don't know what they're called, like the timer plugs, you know, at Christmas when you might want to plug in some Christmas lights and you might want them on for like 3 or 4 hours, and you kind of twist this dial. If you can imagine me twisting the dial and all of the planets moving, that's what happens with the ascendant. So it's like fixing the clock right, setting it. And these angles are really important. They're like the north, south, east, and west of somebody's life. And I know that Nina has had quite a few dramatic events in her life and has had some quite dramatic things happen around family members in the past. And that really fits in with her having Uranus, the planet of shocks and upsets, down here in this place of the home, and also Chiron, the you know, the wounded healer that shows hurts and things that are coming into Nina's world from outside of it. So I also think that because Nina's Sun and Venus and Mercury are showing up in the 11th house, that's much more like Nina, because Nina is a very collaborative person with lots of friends. She is loved by so many people, and she's absolutely got the right personality to get things done and to work in collaboration with people. So I think we've got the right time, Nina. Anyway, let's have a quick look at your chart. Just familiarizing myself with what it was you wanted me to look at. And she just sent me a private message saying, my mum always said 8 a.m., but she was, here we go. She was prone to lying to cover things up and is dead now. So she can't be asked. My aunt said she thought it was early in the morning. So there you go. Just in that message, Nina has revealed, you know, that there's, you know, possibly some shocks going on in her family. So let's just see, what was it you were hoping for me to record for you? Okay, right now I feel adrift from myself and find it hard to make decisions. That's probably age. Oh, bless you. It's not, don't worry. Or if it is, I'm doing it too. Anyway, let's just see if Nina's just added something in here. No, not yet. But April is saying, oh, that Leo hair thing is so spot on. Yeah, my husband Carl, he is a performer, and he's always had quite thick, bushy hair. And his ascendant is also Leo. Yeah. And a certain Donald Trump, I think his ascendant is also Leo. So anyway, let's have a look. So Nina has been feeling like she is adrift from herself. And it's hard to make decisions. Now, it's actually Nina's birthday coming up. Her birthday's on the 7th. And what you'll see, like, these planets should all be pretty much moving around in this direction. As every day goes past, the sun is just going to get closer and closer and closer to where the sun was at her birth, almost like there's an alarm that's about to go off. You know, like you set your alarm for, I don't know, the time, place, and date of your birthday. Like, it's my birthday again. And it's like the hands of the clock moving closer and closer and closer. And so when that sun goes right on here, that's her astrological birthday. And your astrological birthday isn't necessarily on the same day. It might be the day before, day after. So Nina's astrological birthday is coming up. Now, it's funny because around that time, a lot of people do feel like they're cut adrift, like they're not quite sure as to where they're going. I certainly find it a bit like a review point, because, you know, you're summing up one year of life and another one is just starting. And so it is normal to be quite reflective there. But what else is going on? Now, eagle-eyed people will have, and people that are very familiar with astrology will have noticed this. So we've got the North Node here, and the North Node is like a compass point. It's like, where is our soul going? You know, what is our karmic directive? What is going on to do with my purpose? You know, am I living my life with a sense of destiny? All of those kinds of things. And it really points at where we've struggled to find our way. And so it's interesting that she says, I feel adrift from myself and it's hard to make decisions. Well, the North Node, even though I said everything is moving around this way, the North Node is always going this way, pretty much. And the North Node this month, Nina, is about to change signs and go into the sign of Aries. And it's going to be doing that on the 17th, which is also the day of the new moon. And then a month later, in around the 17th of August, it should be crossing over your midheaven. This is all about careers. Now, when the North Node goes over one of our angles, I think it often shows that there's like a part of our life that is coming to an end, or there is like it's almost like the cycle is changing, it's being affected. Now, this part here in the chart where it says MC, the midheaven, is very much about what we've built in terms of our public profile. It's very much about our standing in the world, like how do people see me? What's my reputation like? What have I got to be grateful for, and where can I feel appreciated? So it's all about that, and also success and money and all those kinds of things. It also shows how you're standing in the world. And so, as your North Node has been in this place of career and is slowly inching towards the 9th house, which is all about travel and adventure and being away from your usual context of life. And it's about spirituality. It's about broadening your vision and going deeper into what you know to be true in your heart, rather than following the money. To me, that's a real indication that that's on the way. And I happen to know it is as well. You are making these kind of plans. But if you remember earlier, I mentioned that Chiron is the wounded healer. Right now, the North Node is pretty much right slap bang on the wounded healer in your chart. And so whilst you get the sense that there is this new direction for you, it's also quite painful. So it may well be that you're already planning this new direction, and then some extra pain has come in, and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm feeling pain. Maybe I really do want this new part to my life so that I can leave that pain behind. So it's very much about sort of processing pain. And then now that's the North Node, and you'll notice that it completely opposite. You've got the South Node. It's upside down. So the North Node is showing where you're going in many respects, and the South Node is showing where you've come from. So also the South Node, like where have you come from, like what has led you to where you are right now, is pretty much in the same place as your Uranus. And if you remember, as I started reading your chart, I said Uranus is showing some of the upsets and tragedies and difficulties that you've had in your life from early childhood right the way through. And so right now, the South Node is reminding you that you've come through this, you've gone through so much, and now it's like, this is fresh pain. Is this pain going to stop? So it's kind of fascinating, actually, that the nodes right now are over these two very powerful parts of your chart, and then go over these two very powerful angles. So this is about where you're standing in the world, and right down here is where you're living. So to me, it's almost like, as you deal with the pain and commit to your expansion, and make a choice that you are going to do, like take a particular course of action, I think it's drawing a close. It's not healing the pain necessarily, but it's almost closing the door on it, and it's allowing you to move on. So I do think there is some door closing going on, given that these angles are like doors, doorways. Now there's something else going on as well. So we've also got Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion and growth, but also inflammation. Jupiter is all about optimism and, how we can feel excited by life. And it usually shows where things improve. Now, right now, Jupiter is right over your South Node. So like Jupiter, I think, is reminding you of all the amazing things that you've done in your life. And the fact that you find yourself in quite prominent roles, the fact that you find yourself being respected and rising up quite quickly, I think is an indication that you've almost come into this life with more skills than other people. It feels like you've got more skills, more access to like inner knowledge. There's like this knowing about you that not everybody else has. And you probably think, oh, everyone's got that. But trust me, they don't. And right now, Jupiter is there really encouraging you to draw on what you already came in with, or like your skills. If you think back to anyone that's known you all your life, like maybe your aunt, and you say to your aunt, what are my key strengths? What key strengths did I have as a child? What did I seem to have that nobody else had? That would really give you a clue right now as to what you need to draw in. Now, also Jupiter in your chart currently has Uranus about to go over it, which is kind of funny because Uranus is already in this picture. The North and South node is already in this picture. Now Jupiter is. Now it's here as well. So you got like Jupiter and Uranus. This is all in your 10th house, by the way, which is all about, you know, your career and where you're going and what it means to be a grown up. It's like how you're doing your adult years. So Jupiter here, your sense of hope and achievement and your ability to take things and make things bigger and bigger and bigger. Right now, you've got Uranus that is allowing things to move quite quickly online. And it feels like there's a whole load of new consciousness coming in to help you with that. Now, I want to share something with you around the 19th, 20th, 21st of April. That's off the top of my head, by the way. So don't quote me on that like in a court of law. But around that time in April next year, you've got Jupiter and Uranus are at 21 degrees in the sign of Taurus, right over your Jupiter. It's coinciding with something called a Jupiter return. So this planet is coming back to here, which is traditionally about good luck. And it's traditionally about starting a new life. As Jupiter comes round, a bit like you've got your sun return, your solar return to mark your birthday. The sun's coming back to here. You've got your Jupiter return, which happens every 11.8 years, I think. And it's marking the end of one cycle and the beginning of a new one. And these are cycles of prosperity. These are cycles of chance and luck and expansion. So there's a lot going on there. And there's 101 other reasons why you might feel like you're cut adrift. But I've gone to these because these seem to be the biggest protagonists. So I hope that's helpful in some way. And I'm obviously very happy, to talk offline about it as well, Nina. Let's just see what else is coming in. So, how reassuring and exciting. I think I've become numb from pain. So happy to move on. As Elsa says, let it go. Yeah, let it go. If you have any more reflections on that as this evening goes on, just let me know, Nina. Okay, right, let's move on. So that's kind of interesting, wasn't it? And in fact, actually, I'm just gonna look at one more thing, because I did say that this also fits into the full moon. And so the full moon is at 11 degrees in the sign of Capricorn, which is just here. And there's this point in the birth chart called the vertex. And I always think of it as what the universe wants you to know right now. It's like what the universe wants you to do. Like when you're growing up and people say, oh, what do you want to be? And, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a teacher, I want to be an astronaut or something like that. Well, the vertex doesn't give you the choice. The vertex is saying, this is what you should do because you're so good at it. And Nina's vertex is in this area here, the 5th area, to do with children, birthing, creativity, all sorts of creativity, self-realization and things like that. And so at the time of the full moon, it's going to be just here. And, it's tying into sort of just here in between Nina's Mercury and Sun in her birth chart in an opposition. It's really going to catalyze some movement. So don't be surprised if you get some really big ideas, Nina, and whatever big ideas to do with creativity come up. What could be quite good is like diarizing things, really starting to write it out or perform it out, writing some kind of poetry. I don't know, but I really see that any way you can be really creative right now even if it's like off the wall creative, I really think it's going to help you move forwards. So I'm going to leave that there. Whew. So next one I'm looking at is Rye, and I'm glad I asked. Let me just check I pronounced that right. I think I got a message. Yeah. Totally cool. It's pronounced like R Rye. So okay, Rye. Okay, hopefully I've got that right. Because I would have gone with Ray. So I'm glad I asked. And I find that really annoying when people get my name wrong. I grew up with like Lucy and Louise and all sorts of things because people can't read. Anyway, so Rye is born on the 23rd of November. Let me just double check that. Let me just check in the messages. 23rd of November, 1995, 1:45 p.m. in Newcastle, South Africa. Yeah, I've got that right. Okay. Now, this is quite an interesting one to have a look at. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, my goodness. Wow. First of all, look at these three here. Can you see that? She's got, Rye has got Pluto at 0 degrees in the sign of Sagittarius. Her sun is also at 0 degrees in the sign of Sagittarius. And her Mercury is also at 0 degrees in the sign of Sagittarius. Now, what's kind of interesting right now is that Pluto right now is at 29 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. It's going backwards. But by, I think, the 23rd of January, this is off the top of my head again, but in the last week in January, Pluto fully transitions into the sign of Aquarius and will be at 0 degrees Aquarius, and will be in what's known as a sextile to Rye's Pluto, Rye's Sun, and also her Mercury. This is a very, very strong time for her. And Rye, I know you're listening, earlier this year, I think March, April to the beginning of May, Pluto already was at 0 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. It kind of dipped his big toe into the water, so to speak, to give it a go. I was like, oh, that's a bit too cold for me. I need to wait a minute, and he's going to dive right in, like this, in January next year. But this is pretty big. Anytime a planet goes over 0 degrees, in particular in the sign of Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, and Virgo, you'll probably feel quite energized and probably quite irritable, because Pluto is such a strong planet, and to have your sun in a conjunction with Pluto is really strong. And it's possibly too difficult to handle at times. Your will to get things done, your desires to do things in a particular way. You have a really unusual way of being, and it's probably been quite a job for your mum to know how to handle you at times. And you're probably laughing about this, I would imagine, because like Pluto and the sun together gives a very, very strong will and a very sort of strong knowing, no, this is right for me. And if you had that right from early childhood, that would have been really quite difficult for a new mum. I don't know if you're the only child or not, but you'd have given your mum a run around. I'm pretty sure of that. And also, and I love this, your ascendant is at 28 degrees in the sign of Pisces. Now, Pisces ascendant is quite dreamy. So this is the thing, like Sagittarius is also quite philosophical. So you've got like this dreamy ascendant, which is all kind of ethereal and floaty, and not wanting to commit to anything, because it's very, very difficult to make decisions with the ascendant or moon in the sign of Pisces. You're so aware of everything around you, and you kind of feel everything. And pick up on everything. And then, the sign of Sagittarius is quite wandering, like you're off wandering, wanting to explore and look at everything. It's like endless curiosity. and then you've got this really, really strong intensity as well. So it will have probably been quite difficult for people to read you, because you seem so mild mannered and quite placid and quite happy in your own company. Probably really happy in your own company, kind of dreaming and daydreaming and stuff like that. And then and then you're very, very strong all of a sudden, and that was probably take people aback. It's fantastic. I love it. Now, one of the reasons why I think this is quite a strong month for you, in particular, just next week, not Scorpio, Mars is going to cross over this point here, and go into the sign of Virgo, which will be in a square to your Sun, your Pluto, and your Mercury. That's on the 10th, I think, off the top of my head. And so Mars square the Sun can bring up quite a lot of triggering. Mars in a square to Mercury can create sort of friction and a need to sort of back chat and have the last word, and it just creates an irritation. And Mars in a square to Pluto is quite explosive. So these moments where planets cross these quarter points could potentially be really dynamic and catalyze things and get them moving, but it could cause all sorts of hell at home. So it does need to be managed. And I'm guessing, I mean, you're born in 1995, so you know, you're already pretty, you know, you're very grown up already. You're living your own life. I would imagine, I would hope as well at your age. I'm sure you are. I'm sure you've learned how to handle yourself and also to communicate with other people so they understand the level of your intensity. It's big. And then your moon as well is in the sign of Sagittarius, which again makes you a big dreamer and a philosopher and somebody who absolutely needs freedom. Like, freedom is a very, very strong theme. Freedom and truth is absolutely critical to you. Then you've got Jupiter there. You've also got your Venus and your Mars there. Now, you know, I could talk about this for hours, and I just want to mention a few more things, like your Mars and Venus together. Again, so you've got these three together. Your Venus and Mars are in the same degree at 24 degrees. By the way, at the end of this month, on the 23rd of July, Venus is here in the sign of Leo, which is in a trine. So right now, you know, you've got Venus and Mars trining all of this, your Jupiter, your Mars, and your Venus. It's really quite lucky. You're feeling quite carefree. There is this feeling of abundance. There's this feeling of flow and natural beauty, and you're really kind of reveling in it and feeling really quite glorious. Venus is going to go retrograde. Now, obviously, I don't know anything about you, Rai, but if you've been in a relationship in recent times, you might find that somebody tries to come back or tries to get your attention. It's definitely a time when old feelings and old connections come back. It's like they're rising up, trying to get your attention, and it's really strongly coded into your chart. And Venus retrograde is also you know, making a trine to your south node, which is also quite interesting, because, you know, the north node right here is just coming into this place and will be going over your south node. Within a few months, it feels like your life is taking you back to a place where you already know. It feels like to be able to move forwards, you need to be able to take a step back. Does that make sense? And it's all very intense. And it seems to go hand in hand with this Venus retrograde. Now, this really could be an old lover that sort of really tries to win you back. But it could also be something that you've devoted a lot of time to, like a job or a form of study or something that you've done really, really well in, and all of a sudden you're being pulled back. Now, I think you were asking about how to overcome blockages, in particular with career and relationships. I'd say the relationship one is quite difficult because you don't want to be captured. You are quite dreamy, and you also need a lot of freedom. And that's very, very difficult to get that right. It might be that the intensity that other people show you when they're in love with you. I mean, with this kind of setup, people will really fall for you really quickly. Like they'll get your energy signature, and it's like a drug. It's like an aphrodisiac, you know. There is something about you that is so alluring, especially with Pluto and the sun together, because Pluto is quite magnetic, quite hypnotic. So you've got something about you that the people that love you absolutely love you. And I would imagine that the intensity of their feeling for you is the thing that stops relationships from developing, because it feels really good at first, and then all of a sudden when you get a faint whiff of possessiveness, protection, or overprotection, or almost like it feels like someone's trying to guard you or keep you and to dim your light, that's going to be something that I think you grow into. I think it's almost like, as you just feel so confident that you cannot be controlled and that you cannot be suppressed, locked up, impeded by somebody else's absolute desire to consume you almost. I say that because Pluto is very sort of consumptive. As you get used to that and you have that very strong feeling that nobody can do that to you, then you'll probably find that you meet somebody that actually just loves you for who you are, and who is also a very sort of freedom loving person. But here's the thing, as much as you want your freedom and don't like possessiveness, with your Sun and Pluto together, there is also this need to feel control. And there is also this burning intensity in you too. So it's very easy to put the strength of feelings that are quite tricky to manage on somebody else. And yet actually you also do it. And it's one of those parts of your personality that you're really not that comfortable with. Now, in terms of your career, again, you do need a career that offers you a lot of freedom. And I suspect you'll find one quite easily. There's a few different things that are going on right now that I just want to mention. So the North Node crossing into the first house is really showing you that it's time for you to be known and to feel like you know who you are. It's a real time of you coming into your identity, and it might be a time when you go self-employed rather than working for somebody else. In fact, I think it would be a nightmare for you to work for somebody else. I think you really do need to have the full level of choice to be able to do what you want to do when you need to do it, and to trust yourself. So I really see you becoming a lot more owned in your personality and standing strong about it, in a way that the ascendant in the sign of Pisces kind of stops you. Like the Pisces softness, that's kind of what draws people in. They see your softness, and underneath they don't quite yet realize there's that burning intensity. So there's a bit of a development I see going on for you. Also, you're coming up to your Saturn return, so it's not here yet. I suspect it's going to happen towards the latter part of next year. I can find the dates another time for you. But the Saturn return, which people have around about the age of 28 to 29, it represents the timing of recognizing where you've taken off more than you can handle. And where it feels like it's a prison for you. So a lot of people find that their first relationship breaks up at this time because it's too heavy on their shoulders. It's penning them in too much. Or people have their first child, or they, it's all about responsibility. So like having a child is obviously a great thing, and it starts a new life for you. I've got quite a few clients that are having their second Saturn return around the time of 58, and their children are having their first Saturn return, because lots of people do have children at this time. It's a bit of a pattern. So it's a time of shedding the stuff that is holding you in place and feels like too much responsibility in a way that's not for you. And it's also a time when you take on more responsibility. But this is all happening in your 12th house, which is the place of your unconscious mind. So during this time, it feels like there's a lot going on, and people tend to be naturally quieter. So I don't think you're really ready to kind of burst forth. But the North Node is going to be going through this for the next 18 months. And during the 18 months, your Saturn is going to cross the ascendant. Something else which is even more important is you've got Neptune crossing your ascendant. Now that really creates a confusion as to where you're going. And that can take a couple of years to come out of its conjunction. You know, like Neptune has been coming up closer, and it's been almost causing a confusion about how you see yourself and how you settle in one place. In particular, I've got like a client that's been looking for the right house, whose Neptune has been going over this and a whole bunch of planets here, and it's been very, very difficult for her to find that place. Neptune is the ruler of the seas, and it's like, wow, where is that needle in the haystack? You know, what is that thing that's going to bring you joy? So what I would say is what you need to focus on right now. If I was in your shoes right now, Rai, I would really focus on what I love doing. Absolutely. You've got to do what you love. You've got to follow your passion, really be who you are. I would take steps to like maybe do some courses that are really for you. I'm pretty sure you're really dynamic anyway. But for instance, if there's some kind of course that could boost your self-esteem or help you let go of resistances and things like that, I would do it. Now is the right time to do it while Saturn is going through this part of your early programming. I would start doing that now so that by the time your Saturn return comes, you've already got rid of the things that aren't working for you. Because when you get your Saturn return, that could also represent when you're taking on new responsibility, which is much better than losing all the stuff that upsets you. I would work on the kind of thinning of the things that are no longer relevant and letting it go with grace, so that as your Saturn return comes, you're stepping into yourself so much more and really feeling the power of it. So I would say between now and 18 months, your whole life's going to change in quite a dramatic and interesting way. Really, I mean, this is just a quick 20-minute look. So, you know, this is pretty big. Last thing then, I did say that every chart fitted in with this full moon. And in Rai's chart, she's got Juno, the goddess of marriage, at 10.5 degrees. And tomorrow, the moon is going to be right here in a full moon position. And it's, funnily enough, Juno, the goddess of marriage, it's not just about marriage, it's about marriage, commitment, dedication to yourself. Juno is involved in this full moon as well. So you've got a Juno opposition. This is all about what you're dedicated to and committed to in yourself in terms of your career and things like that. It does definitely have a strong flavor for you. It's in the place of your career. In terms of what you should focus on, again, I just think you should focus on what makes you happy right now. I don't think you can do it any other way. You really do need to live freely, and you really do need to live by your rules in quite a major way. I think focus on what you love right now with such a passion that you couldn't imagine not having it in your life, and take it from there. You don't need to know how that is going to earn you money. You really don't. But you need to just start doing it. And if you do the things you're really passionate about, even if it's just for half an hour a day, I really think it will build, it will tell you what you need. So anyway, I'm going to leave that there. I hope that was helpful. Let's just see what's coming up in the chat room. So coming from Rai's place, it says, perfect. Looking forward to hearing about the nodes and supermoon. Honestly, feel like a werewolf and how the moon affects me. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I would be really wary of the full moons and new moons in the sign of Scorpio, given that you've got the Pluto connection with your sun. That would really, really affect it. Whew. And you're laughing, so that's good. Let me know, if I can be of any further help, then you know where I am. We've got Newbie in the house. Hey there. It was so nice to meet you last week. Newbie just flew over from the US to Portugal to come and have a little look around and say hello to some people. Ooh, be free. I'd love that to be mine. That's the interesting thing, isn't it? Each week I get somebody messaging me saying, oh, I wish I had that birth chart. It's so funny. We look at other people's charts and think, wow, that's the one for me. I'm uploading some free content now to my online community at SKOOL.com. Did I already tell you about that? SKOOL.com/feel-good astrology. And it's part of a course. It's an absolute beginner's course. Everything you need to know about astrology just to get you familiar with all of these terms so that I can then take you on a deeper dive and actually start really teaching you. So it teaches you the signs, the symbols, how to do your chart and things like that. But in one of the modules is called Are All Charts Created Equal? The whole idea that there is this one chart that's so beautiful and so perfect, and the others are real pigs. It's interesting. What I would say, like, for instance, in this is a very good example of somebody with quite a dramatic chart. In fact, Nina's was as well, with her Chiron and Uranus. In fact, let me just show you. So Nina's chart, where she had Chiron here next to this area of her career, and then her Uranus down here right next to her home angle. When you've got a chart with lots of things connecting up, clumping, like when you've got one of these slow moving planets over this area, it can create hell for you. It can really cause a lot of upsets and stuff like that. I know from Nina's chart that in her early childhood, she'd have had Pluto going over the part of her home, then her Uranus, then her North Node, and then her Moon. And that would have caused a lot of pain, a whole heap of pain. That would have been very, very difficult. And so, where you've got these charts, like, for instance, this one here, Rise chart, with all of these planets in a line, when Pluto went through the sign of Sagittarius, now off the top of my head, I think it was around 1995 until 2008. If I got that right, I'll be so surprised. But it was there for quite some time. Pluto. Oh yeah, it was there in 1995 because it is literally at 0 degrees in the sign of Sagittarius. So it spent loads and loads of time going through this part of her chart, and it would have gone over her Sun, her Mercury, her Moon, her Jupiter. Thankfully, the house that it is in Rise chart is the 9th house, which is about freedom and religion and thought and learning and expansion and adventure, which is much better than when it goes through the 4th house, which is about our home life, our relationship with our mum and things. So, she's very fortunate that all of this energy is in a much easier chart. So going back to Nubinet's comment, I didn't even have that on the screen. Sorry about that. But yeah, the whole chart issue, some of these really dynamic charts, they look so beautiful, and yet they can have moments in time when they're really difficult to manage. Anyway, Carl saying, please ask everyone to join the communities. Oh, you just did. So yeah, it's SKOOL.com. That's SKOOL.com/feel-good astrology, one word. Love the necklace. Thank you. That was a gift from somebody. So last but not least, I'm going to now look at Doug and Doug's chart. And this is even more in line with tomorrow's full moon. So we were talking about the North Node and the South Node. So the North Node is here, showing the direction that Doug is moving into, or where he's always moving. And it's all about his personality, actually. With his North Node in the 1st house, it's about being a personality. It's about knowing who he is. He's got a strong identity, put it that way. And a lot of his life lessons are around him being himself. So like when he's really being himself, sometimes that causes him some really great things to happen. And yet there'll be times when he's being himself, it causes like pain and difficulty. Now his South Node, showing everything that he came into this world with, is he understood people. And he understands people. He understands how people think, and the mentality of people. And so it gives him a very good sort of observation. It gives him a very good narrative. It gives him a very good story in life. And so he's come in with this knowledge of people. And then one of the things that he's developing for himself in this lifetime is, his concept of self. Now, tomorrow's full moon, the moon is going to be right here on his south node, reminding him of who he was, who he's been. And then the sun and Mercury is right on his north node right now. Now, I happen to know that Doug had a very, very serious and possibly life-threatening accident a few months ago, or a couple of months ago. And he's turned it around. You know, we're very fortunate to say he's still with us. Now, with the moon, the full moon, which is about our ambitions, this full moon in Capricorn, it's about our ambitions and how we can have a big goal and how we can move forwards. It's right here on his south node. So the first thing I would say to you, Dougie, is you moving forwards and your desire to move forwards. Now, I don't know what your big plan is. I'm guessing at the moment it is to make a full recovery and to become even stronger than you were before you had your accident. But I suspect there's also another plan, another big goal, another I don't know, like a yearning for something else, in particular to do with your identity and also your relationships with other people. So whatever that big back burner project is, and it doesn't have to be a work one, it could be that you want to free yourself in some way. Whatever's going on with that, I would say that tomorrow's full moon is likely to stir up a lot of emotions and a lot of it's almost like you understand how things have happened, and also what you're called upon to remember is your understanding of people. It's really important that the situation you're thinking about right now, you remember what you've always known about people, so that you're A, not disappointed, B, you're looking at things with full discernment and with a full knowing, so you can make really good decisions about things. And I really think you need to remember a time when you felt like you were completely loved, completely understood, completely in the thick of things, you know, where you felt like you were radiating and everybody loved that side of you. So I really feel like it's not just about recovery, but it's also about that feeling of being a feeling of belonging, you know, like you belong to everybody and you know the right people to have in your life around you. So it's quite a big one. Yes, quite huge, in fact. Now, what's quite useful right now, actually, before I go into what's quite useful, let's just comment on some other things. So in the same way that Rai, my previous chart, she had her sun and moon in the same sign. Dougie's also got his moon and his sun in the sign of Aquarius. Now, he's also a freedom lover. Aquarius and Sagittarius are the two freedom lovers, like real freedom lovers. Aries as well. They like to have things their own way more so than having freedom. But Sagittarians and Aquarians, they can get really lost. You know, they can really explore things and go off on a tangent. Now, in Aquarius as well, there's this fascination with systems, fascination with how systems work, the fascinations with sometimes political systems. Now, in particular, like the sign of Aquarius is actually very sort of philanthropic, but also very much into equality and diversity. And so a lot of people with a lot of strong Aquarian energy end up thinking about what's the best way for politics to go, that everybody gets a fair crack of the whip and that everyone can prosper. So you want to create a system that's fair, but I can also see that you've got your Mars and your Saturn in a conjunction with the Sun. Now this is interesting because to me what that's saying is you've had to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. To me, it doesn't feel like you've been given anything for free. You haven't been it's almost like you've had to work harder than people realize to achieve the things that you've done. And it's been your sense of real grit and determination, like Saturn and Mars together. It's quite difficult. It actually is quite military. You see Saturn and Mars together, in particular with Jupiter. like connections with Jupiter. But anyway, you know, those two are very sort of military, like Saturn shows authority, Mars shows force. And so there are systems of being that make sense to you, like systems of regulation, systems of making things work. But interestingly, in the sign of Aquarius, like how can you apply, how can you give people freedom, and how can you help people have a free go of things whilst also maintaining law and order, or whilst also ensuring that things still go well? So it's an interesting kind of preoccupation, and I would say most of your life has had echoes of this, and it's made you be quite acquiring of information and curious about information. I really put that down to the fact you've got your ascendant in the sign of Gemini, which gives you a bit of a butterfly mind. You flip from different things, so you can hold many different diverse thoughts at the same time, and also play devil's advocate quite successfully. And with your sun, your moon, and your sun, your Mars, and also your Saturn in a trine to the ascendant, and also in your 10th house to do with success. You know, I would imagine that has really helped you get your ideas across, and also learn more about the world and participate more in the world. So I think that's gone well, but I don't think it's been easy. I think you've had to work your nuts off. And people probably don't realize that. People probably think you've had it on easy street or something, but that's not the case. You know, you see some charts and you can tell that people have had a quite an easier time of it, and you can see how much people use of their chart to make themselves, you know. And what I can see about your chart, Doug, is that you don't rest on your laurels. You don't sit back. You actively get involved. You dive into whatever interests you, and you dive into it with the kind of acuity and determination of an expert. So it's very impressive. Now, this square here to Neptune is a real indication that you absolutely need the truth. You love the truth. And I suspect you've come across quite a few times when people have lied and tried to mislead and misrepresent you. So I think you're probably quite wary of that. Also, you're born at a time when Chiron, the wounded healer, was also in exact opposition to Pluto, and also in opposition to Uranus. So you're actually born into a generation, one of the first generations actually that came across divorce. But it's very much about where things get painful, in particular where things get painful from authority, we walk. And we go and do it ourselves. We have to run away. So there is this temptation to run off and start again, and kind of like almost erase the past at some level. It's quite unrestful, but it's not fatal. What I would advise for you right now to make the best of your opportunities, yeah, if I was in your shoes right now, I don't know actually. Right, first of all, you're coming into a time with Pluto. He's not quite there yet. He's just sort of like messing around. Pluto's just going backwards at the moment in the 8th house, which is all about guilt, shame, blame, anger, family patterns, and family hang-ups and stuff. But from January, when Pluto starts moving again and starts going to your 9th house, I think it's a time of publishing. It's a time of getting your thoughts out there. It's a time of your voice coming out. If anything, I think this recent accident that you've had, and you'll probably have some echoes of it during tomorrow's full moon, but your recent experience has made you realize that you live once and you have to take every opportunity. And one of the things I think that is absolutely core about you is ideas. It's all about ideas, powerful ideas. And I think there is still a broadcaster within you that needs to get ideas out. And the market and the way we do it has changed. However, your unique way of seeing the world and talking about the world and reviewing the world is powerful. And as Pluto moves forwards and through the 9th house, I think it's time to let your voice free. In fact, it might also be something that you end up teaching or running some kind of workshops or seminars on, because the ninth house is all about teaching, and sharing really good ideas, and having your Mercury here as Pluto goes over it. Really, I mean, I don't know if you've actually retired or not. I mean, if you have, I mean, that's early retirement. But, you know, I see you being back in work. I see you doing stuff. I don't see you resting on your laurels at all. So make a full recovery. If I can help you piece it out or pace it out or whatever, if I can help you in any way, just drop me a line. You know where I am. And yeah, I do see you making a massive comeback. It's almost as if what's happened recently has kind of shaken you up and given you a renewed sense of purpose. So I'm just going to check the room, and just feed in the last few comments. So Dougie has said, oh, I hope you're okay. All adds up. I do respect my freedoms, which is why you're 100% right about recovery being so important, because without it, freedoms are curtailed. Okay, so I'm going to call an end to this session. Thanks so much for being with me today. Thanks for all of your comments. Thanks for all of your sharings. Thank you to the lovely 3 people who gave me their charts to explore and pull apart and talk about. If you would like to have your own chart looked at, then please do make contact with me on my SKOOL.com. I'm just going to put the address in the chat room. Hopefully I've spelled that right. Yeah, I have. So that's all there for you. SKOOL.com/Feel Good Astrology. Go there, set up a profile, and then I'll let you in, and then we can talk about it. I do have people lined up for the next week, but I've got spaces on future programs. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I'll meet up with you again real soon. Anyway, lots of love to you. Bye for now. Wow, where did my outro go? That's weird. Goodbye.